I don't get the sense that the legacy automakers are even making an effort to follow in Tesla's footsteps in terms of reducing the number of parts in their cars. I get the sense that they're just like, no more R&D, no more investment, just harvest what we've got and then work on the electric vehicle.
You are almost entirely on the right track there. What they're doing is slightly worse than what you expected. They're trying to incorporate some parts of it, but not all parts of it. Imagine if, a half measure that will achieve nothing. So they're trying to take some of Tesla's factory innovations and use them to build cars that are still built the old fashioned way. And it's like, well, great, you've got the new tool, but you're using it on the wrong thing. That's not going to help you. So they are going in the wrong direction in a lot of ways.
So for transportation, they've obviously got the four models of the Tesla automobile. They're working on the, what do we call it? The robo taxi. They've
Mhm.
got the cyber truck, and then they've got a tractor trailer. The what do we call that?
The semi, just the Tesla semi.
Just the Tesla Semi. Simple enough. But that's not all the company is working on, is it?
No, sir. No,
So
sir.
tell us more.
They've also would of all the crazy things, they've got a robot they're working on, an actual humanoid robot. And this was unveiled, probably 2.5 years ago now. And it was met with thunderous laughter. How dare you? No one wants this, no one cares about it. And here we are just a couple years later, and there are over 100 robotics companies actively pursuing their own version of it. And every week you see new demos from new companies. Oh, this one's got great fingertips. This one's got great balance. This one's got something innovative. Does this mean that they are ahead of Tesla? Well, no, because we haven't seen their latest demo. And Tesla's now keeping their information a little more private because every time they would show something, the competition would go through it frame by frame and say, oh, this is what we need to do. So Tesla is doing great stuff. Just a day or two ago, they released a video of it walking on uneven terrain with a blindfold. And at one point, it slips, but it doesn't fall. It catches
I watched
itself.
that.
And
It's
that is,
phenomenal.
you look at it and you go, that's because it's great in a factory if everything's flat and smooth, but the world has hills, it has inclines, it has broken terrain. So this takes it out of the lab. And the difference between Tesla and these other companies, let's say I give you five companies and I say, I'm trying to pick which one I'm going to invest in. Here's the demos. And you look at them and all the demos are just as good as each other. The Tesla one is the winner because they have the ability to manufacture like nobody else. They thought of things that other companies didn't. Before they built the first robot, they ran it through the crash test simulator they use on the cars. That is, and the other companies were like, oh, well, we just built it. And when it fell over, fixed it. They were able to avoid a lot of silly mistakes just because they have all these core competencies in house.
And today, the Tesla is the safest model, safest automobile on the road, correct?
Yes, it is. And if you look at the rankings, it holds the top spots. And for that matter, it's the most American made car. I think Tesla holds three or four of the top 10, the top three or four spots out of the top 10 most American made because the batteries come from Nevada, the motors come from either Nevada or California, the and they're built in Texas and California.
And the Tesla Model Y is the most popular car in the world.
In the world. A car of that price has never been number one. It can't be. It's always been the economy cars that can sell in every market, but the Model Y represents such a good value. And because it's made at factories in Germany for the European market, in Shanghai for the Asian market, they're able to keep it close to where it's going to be sold. They don't have huge lead times for deliveries, which adds to cost, which adds to import and export tariffs. They've got the ability to move these cars at prices that make sense in every market, and it's just good value.
So, what do you see the evolution of the Optimus robot being? What's the trajectory?
Boy, it is really tough to see. I'd say that's just over the horizon. I can see the smoke, but I can't see the land just yet. It's going to change everything because I have a lot of little odd jobs around the house I'd love to get done, but I don't have the, $300 or $500 a contractor would charge me to come out just to trim the hedges. I'll trim the hedges eventually, but I'm not going to do it today. If I had a bot, or if I had access to one that charges $5 an hour or $1 an hour, I would have them done today. All it would do, it wouldn't change much apart from the quality of my life. Think of elder care. When my grandma lost her vision, she moved in with my sister because we didn't want to send her to a home. And that was a burden. But if you could stay at home longer, have someone have something there to fold your laundry and make sure there's no obstacles in your path, you could stay at home longer. You could have more of your freedom to keep in your life. So it is going to change anything. The biggest job in the country right now is driving. Tesla will replace that. And that's not, well, that's going to put 1 million people out of work. Well, the workforce is aging and retiring, so natural attrition should meet that just fine. But the real biggest job in the country is anything that uses a human being's labor. And that's what Optimus is set to replace, is anything that can be done with human labor.
I think they've said repetitive task, boring task, and dangerous task.
and and dangerous tasks. Yeah,
Repairing a
wouldn't
roof,
yeah,
for instance.
yeah, deep sea welding. Why not have that?
Well, now, as I understand it, Tesla is intending on deploying 1,000 Optimus robots to work in its own factory in 2025.
And isn't that something? Because you need the training data, you need the training experience. What customer is going to let us do it? Oh, I know, us. And that's where the advantage comes into play. If I were to, let's say I had an autonomous car company and I brought it to you and I said, I want you to invest in this. And I showed you the software and you see, this is brilliant. It's definitely going to work. All it needs is training data. You would ask me, Brian, where are you going to get the training data? And I'd say, I have no idea. And it's going to cost billions.
And where does
Because
Tesla get its training?
from you and me, and every car sold has this software in it. It comes free with autopilot that is better than any other company's higher advanced expensive autonomous systems. And it's got 9 cameras on the car, and it gathers anonymous data every day on how does a human drive, what does a
Yeah.
human do. They needed there was a problem where it couldn't recognize stop signs if they were partially covered by branches. So they sent a request to the network saying, get me pictures of occluded stop signs. And by the next morning, they had tens of thousands of pictures that cars like yours and mine had taken over the intervening time of exactly that. And for a long time, humans would go through and label them until the network got good enough to recognize it on their own. Those labelers are gone. And good, because that's a terrible job. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Doing captcha puzzles all day. So that's what Tesla's doing. They've got the compute advantage, they've got the training data advantage, they've got the best engineers in the world, and the results show.
So we're talking to Brian White. He has a YouTube channel called Futureaza, and you've been doing this since 2012. Is that right, Brian?
Well, I've been following Tesla since 2012. I haven't been doing a channel. The
Right,
channel
but you've been
started.
studying this stuff
Oh
since
yeah. Oh, for
2012.
sure. Yes, sir. And
So over a
even
decade.
though even though my channel is only 4 years old, the spreadsheets that I was doing, analyzing different car companies, analyzing the factory construction, I was doing that just for myself. And at some point, I realized I'm putting so much work into this, I might as well publish it. So that's how the whole thing came about.
So I was sharing with Brian and I were actually speaking before we started recording the segment, and we both concluded, well, I concluded that we both probably need to get out and get a life for ourselves because I wake up every morning and I watch Dylan Loomis from Electrified. I watch Stephen Mark Ryan from Solving the Money Problem. I watch Brian White, Futuraza, and I also watch Brighter with Herbert. I think the thing that I really enjoy about Brighter with Herbert and Tesla Raza is that you guys kind of study the technology and the engineering that goes into these products more so than the economics. But do you have any sense for where the economics are headed, where the value of this company is headed, and when we'll get, is there a top? What is the top? When will we get there? And what will it mean to us as investors?
Those are fantastic questions, and those are great channels. Dylan Loomis is the reason that my channel succeeded, by the way. He was the one who linked to me and told everyone to go watch me when my channel was just starting out. He's a very good guy. Uh,
Dylan is a wonderful guy, and he's been a guest on our show a couple of times. And he and I just texted each other yesterday. In fact, he's a wonderful spirit. I'm
he
crazy
he
about Dylan.
is. He is. And Herbert has an engineering background. He did software app development, all that kind of thing. So he's looking at it from the analytical side. What is the top? Well, as you know, let's jump back in our time machine. No company has ever been worth $1 trillion before. It can't happen. It doesn't happen. But if you look at the stocks today, you'll see that, oh, quite a few are worth substantially more than $1 trillion. Well, the Dow will never hit 10,000. It did. Of course it did. So what is the top? Well, the first key is the theoretical top is whatever the biggest company is today. So that means Tesla could 3x from here and still just be within normal bounds, nothing unprecedented. But if you look at the real question is, how big is the market? How big, how many widgets can you sell? You and I sell widgets. How many can we sell? Well, there's only 1 million sold every year in the whole world. So the market cap, the maximum is 1 million. But what if we found a way to make it so that everyone wanted one? Every human being gets one widget. Okay, well, now our market's 8 billion. With the bots, what is the limit? With autonomy, if Tesla gets even 10 or 20% of all transportation on four wheels, that is an ocean of money. If they get even 10% of what the cumulative human labor is, that is an ocean of money. So the problem with trying to predict how high it could go is as soon as you start crunching real numbers, no matter how low you set them, they start looking crazy almost immediately because the value is enormous. If you can build a robot for $25,000 that can do $30,000 to $50,000 of labor per year, it's crazy. It makes internships look like the worst deal because you have to train them. If I've got 100 jobs in my factory and my stamping guy is sick today, do I have anyone else here who can do that? Well, with robots, the answer is yes, because all of them know every job. I have to teach them once, and now all of them know how to do the job. So there's no more having to overstaff and undertrain and overtrain and even spend time on training. It just is gonna work. So the question, if the question is how big can it get, the answer is, I mean, what job can it not do?
So, what do you think is up with the Wall Street analyst? Like yourself, we just talked about it. I watch this stuff every single day of my life and multiple times during the day. And then you watch these analysts, and what is so obvious to you and me, they seem to be clueless on. What's up with that? What do you think?
It is a combination of factors. One is I do think they are spread too thin. I've seen, well, I'm a auto industry analyst. I cover 30 companies. Well, how well can you cover 30 of anything? Now, I do cover companies other than Tesla. But I do so once or twice a quarter. I follow the news on all the different brands, but to ask me to put together a financial report on someone other than Tesla, I would tell you I need a week to put it together because I'm not it's a lot of work to do it well. And their job isn't to do it well, it's just to do it. So the first part is they are lazy. We saw an analyst this week who upgraded their rating on their price target on Tesla because we've finally experienced FSD ourselves. It's been out for ages. You're just now experiencing it. That is lazy. If I was paying for your advice, I would be furious. But the real answer, I think, is that their goal isn't to be right. Their goal is to be exciting. They want to tell you to buy and they want to tell you to sell, and they want you to do both as often as possible because transactions are how they're paid. When you and I put our money in and leave it there, they're not getting paid on that. They're only getting paid when we buy and sell. So they need money to continue moving, even if it's not in the client's best interest.
That's a good look behind the curtain. I have to agree with you. And I have no doubt that tomorrow morning, all the major analysts will up their price targets. And they basically seem to me just to follow the moves of the stock. And they're always lagging it. And so I put very little value in anything that they have to say. Jim Cramer, who I actually like, is bullish one day and bearish the next. He just sort of seems to go with the wind, whichever direction it's going in. So Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are heading a new department of government. It's actually an extra department of government. It's not part of the federal government. They just call it a department called DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. You think they have a chance?
It's tricky because I think they're going to end up being hamstrung by Congress. These are two, I mean, for those who don't know anything about Vivek, he is a very successful entrepreneur, ground up, did it himself, was very successful. These are two people who understand how businesses work and how to be efficient. But businesses and government are not the same thing. And you and I can agree that here's 50 things we need to cut from the budget. They don't make sense. But all 50 of those take place in a congressional district. And politicians are stubborn. We can find great examples of that. You might like your member of Congress, and you should, because they are going to fight tooth and nail when it comes to cuts in your district. But the problem is, all of these cuts are coming in someone's district, and all of the members of Congress will fight to keep each individual thing going as well as they can. Doge is expected to present a detailed report by, I think it was July, or maybe it was July of the following year, but they have a deadline, and I think they'll get it done, and they'll get it done early. And I'm confident there will be some things on it that are doable, that are sufficiently non-contentious that they can actually get them through. But the big items are going to be real tough sells. And Congress is famously, there's a phrase to describe things that are difficult. It's like harder than an act of Congress.
Well, I think there is a difference this time. And as much as I dislike it, when George Soros flexes his muscle and spreads his money around for things that I abhor, I am excited that Elon Musk has said, don't mess with us. Don't push back on us, because if you do, you're going to get primaried. So these guys are playing for keeps, and Trump has gotten a tremendous mandate going into the 47th presidency of the United States. I'm optimistic that we're going to see some really important, significant change. We've got to deal with this in lunatic deficit spending, $2 trillion just this year. They're saying they're going to reduce the budget by 2 trillion. That gets rid of the deficit. Then we can start having a balanced budget. And that is real change that we desperately need. Because in 2028, the interest payments on that debt is going to be the biggest line item of the federal budget. We cannot allow that to persist. Sorry to get political on you.
Politics is important, but it is difficult, and it gets people very emotional. I stick to policy over politics, because what we just discussed just a second ago, that was all policy. When
Sure.
we're discussing regulation, we can agree that regulators can be weird, but it's a matter of policy. And the beauty of a lot of those regulations, especially when it comes to autonomous vehicles, is they're not laws. They can be amended with a swipe of a pen. And the interpretations of certain things that are codified can be adjusted accordingly. There is a tough road ahead. Trimming out trillions will be a Herculean task. But if there's anyone up to it, I think it's these two guys.
Well, I like your approach very much. I heard Rubin from the Rubin Report this morning quoting a Hollywood A-lister. He said, we can discuss differences of opinions on policy without discussing our differences as human beings. And that resonated with me. And I appreciate your willingness to engage with me today, Brian. It's been a wonderful conversation. I hope you'll come back on soon and often, because I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I think you've really done a good service for our listeners to help bring them along and educate all of us on Tesla.
Well, I appreciate it. This has been a blast for me, and keep up the good work.
Well, thank you very much. And I wish you a happy holiday and a safe holiday season. And just keep that FSD on when you're traveling the roads.
I will do it.